I have been a programmer ever since I moved to Prague, which is about 6 years. And I'm the one that said I'd like to work for my own business because I and Terka actually and another girl are starting a business for teaching Czech. So I'm building the website. One of our friends is the teacher, and part of this process was setting up a payment platform. So I don't know if anybody here has done this before or tried it on their own website, setting up a payment platform with an API or something like this. You have a little bit? Okay. It's not as hard as I thought it would be. I was actually really intimidated by it because I expected, like, okay, I'm dealing with people's money. If I do this wrong, it's going to make the customers really unhappy. But I ended up using Stripe for this process, and it was so easy. So you have a lot of options. There's a lot of different choices and a lot of different things to think about when you're choosing one. For me, it was important that it be simple, that the platform itself was not so complicated that it would kind of screw me up while I was setting it up, and that it wouldn't cost too much money. So right now we don't have so many customers, which is good, but later on often the payment model changes, so you want to make sure that you start with something that is ideally free, and then as it grows it doesn't get too expensive. Stripe right now we pay 10% on every transaction, so we take 100 crowns at the moment and we give them about 9 crowns. And I actually heard about them on a podcast. The head of the product development was talking on the podcast, and basically what she had to say was they try and make the platform work so well that you will trust them with payments, that even with the little things, they spend a lot of time thinking about the details. So that sounded nice to me, and then I tried it out, and it was actually as easy as she made it sound like in the podcast, which was nice. So basically how Stripe works, like from a technical perspective, you have kind of two sides of the transaction. You have your website side of the transaction, and then you have the Stripe side of things. So every transaction starts with you doing something with your website and sending some information to Stripe, and then you set up a customer, and then you keep some information about that on your platform. So you're initiating the transaction. And then for our case, specifically for like subscription model, you also receive some information from Stripe. They, send you some information that you pick up with some hooks. And that's basically how you manage transactions. So for instance, if somebody makes a payment with their payment card and it doesn't go through or something, then you receive some information from them and you manage the relationship that way. And they have a couple of different models that you can use. So maybe you have subscriptions, maybe you have individual products, you have a lot of choices. We were able to set up both like individual products for courses and also subscriptions for people who want to pay for a longer time. And both of them were pretty simple. And then with testing, you have a sandbox, which is really nice. So you start with a API key for your production side of things, an API key for your testing side of things, and you can just switch between those two. They're totally separate. You have your testing products, your production products. And then in addition, you have a CLI tool to mock the webhooks that are sending you information when you go through a transaction. So how it looks for us, we have an API set up on our side. I hope I'm not in the way. We have a webhook handler, and we have environment variables for this testing prod setup. And these are some of the endpoints that you can see from our code. I don't want to show everything here, but basically you can set up your products from the website. So if you want to create a new product, like for instance, we have one member of our team that is not great with computers, but we still want her to be able to set up courses and products. So we have that set up. And then you can also, I don't know if I show it here, you have some handlers for like when somebody wants to create an account, they will start and create an account, and then you send some information to Stripe when they're doing that, and it will send you some metadata back. So those starting points are here. And I guess I sort of forgot to mention, when you start through this process, you basically create a link, and then you click on that link and it takes you to Stripe. So you have a front end. This was part of the reason that I like this platform, is that you can sort of build your entire front end just the way that you want it to be. And then you just take this link, you send to the payment platform when you want to get there. And then when you come back, you have all of the information from creating an account, this sort of thing. So you have total control over how they go through the process. If they already have an account, you can send them to the subscription. If they're creating a new account, you can have them create the account and then go to the subscription. You can sort of control how they move through your website. And that's about it. I would say it's probably one of the simplest things that I have ever done with an API. Compared to Google or something like that, it's totally straightforward. And I was going to add a slide about like challenges and stuff, but honestly, if you just read the documentation, you're gonna figure it out just fine. So yeah, that's about it from me. Thanks, guys. So yeah, I don't know if somebody has questions or if they have them, then sure.
So I'll maybe ask, like, is there like a Node.js SDK that Stripe has, or?
Yeah, that's how it works. Okay. And I believe there's some other ones. I don't remember exactly which languages. Probably, I guess Java, and maybe Go, but I'm not sure. Maybe C++. Right. Okay. But yeah, it's Node.js. Yeah.
Have you studied how much other platforms charge you? Is it something similar?
So I looked at maybe 2 or 3. I didn't go with Shopify, obviously, because it doesn't have this fine-grained control. You build a shop with them, and you're not programming at that point. So I didn't want to do that. Actually, if I go back to this, some of the other ones on here were competitors, and a lot of times it's a decision between whether you're going to pay up front and pay less later, or whether you start with a free model and then you pay more later. That's also how, like, for instance, Google's AI works. So at this point, I'm really working on like anything that has a free start, which Stripe does have. And then at this point, our website is so small that if we start getting some traction, we can switch to something else without too much pain and agony. Yeah. Yeah. We have Express and Node.js, basically. So it's just a web app. There's nothing else going on. Once we add an application, like, a phone application, which is in the works, but I have a job, so we'll see when we get around to it. Then we would probably add React, just because React Native is so much easier to work with in terms of having both at the same time. But right now it's just Node.js and React. Node.js, Express, and React. Yeah. I will close this because this is my work computer. So.
All right. Then thank you, Kate.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.